Today, we're featuring a special conversation that previously aired on our sister podcast, The Unbridled Creative, because its themes align beautifully with what we explore here on Be Locally Loved. We hope you enjoy it. Moving to a new town can feel overwhelming. You don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to trust. That's where Be Local comes in. Like a best friend, Be Local personally welcomes newcomers and connects them to the best local businesses, restaurants, community events, so they can feel at home faster. And for local business owners, Be Local is like a matchmaker, introducing them to new families who are ready to form long-lasting and local relationships. To grow your business by reaching newcomers, visit reachnewcomers.com. Well, hey, Trent, you might notice that I'm actually wearing Disney ears today.
Yes. Love the ears and the bow, of course, a Minnie Mouse bow.
Yes, Minnie Mouse bow on my
I wish I
Disney
still had
ears.
mine. Not the Minnie Mouse bow, but
Well, we are going to have a kind of special episode today on the podcast because I just came back from Disney. I was chaperoning my son's band to Disney, and I thought, what a fun thing to talk about today. Let's talk about the
Yes.
power of moments, like what Disney can teach us about courage, calling, and creating experiences people never forget. Doesn't that sound fun?
I love it. And actually, this is one of my favorite topics, and Disney, of course, because I almost worked for Disney a long time ago out of college. And,
Really? Tell us
yeah.
about that.
Well, I went to art college, and I was so smart it took me 7 years to get out. But that's beside the point. But I was originally going to go to college down at Ringling, down in Florida, southern Florida, and then, but fortunately, where I went to school here in Columbus College of Art and Design had a Disney program. We were directly connected with Disney. They would hire people to their intern program right out of our college. So I almost accepted it and decided not to go down there, even though part of my family lived down there. But it was a good move. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I would have done that. And I wouldn't have been doing what I love to do. I love to create vision and things like that, not just sketch all day long. That's what I would have been doing.
Well, you'll have a unique perspective for us because you got to see Disney from the inside, and
Yes.
I got to see Disney, as a guest, and I'm sure a lot of our guests or our listeners have been to Disney. But what we know, the big idea of this show today is that we know that people don't remember what you sell; they remember the moments that you create. We've all heard people remember how you make them feel. So what we want to talk today is about how to create moments that will delight and surprise and inspire your clients to help your business grow, inspired by Disney. So why don't we start by just leaning into Walt Disney, who I think is probably the quintessential unbridled creative. Like we
Yes.
really saw him be bold, break free, redefine an industry. So I did a little research on Disney. So let me tell you what I know, that before Walt Disney was Disney, he was a man with a vision that most people really didn't understand. They thought he was crazy.
The crazy artist.
Crazy artist. You would relate to that, can't you? So, Walt Disney, the man we know today, he did not start out successful, at least the way the world defined successful. In fact, one of his earliest stories about him is that he was fired from a newspaper because they thought he lacked imagination.
Gosh.
Can you believe that? Let that
Yeah.
sit for a second, that he lacked imagination. The man that would go on to build one of the most imaginative companies in the world was told he was not creative
There's
enough.
a lesson. There's a lesson.
There's
in
a
that.
lesson. Oh my gosh. So I did some research, like I said, and here's what I learned is he started his first animation company and it failed. He actually filed bankruptcy. And then he created a character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and he lost the rights to it. Like he had to start completely over again. And that's actually what led to Mickey Mouse, the famous character that we know today. So out of that failure, losing the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, he created Mickey Mouse. So a great example of how your failure could actually become the thing that helped you become who you were meant to be, right?
Isn't
So
that
he
true?
created success out of failure and loss of something that, he wanted to have. So later in life, Walt had this kind of crazy idea that most people felt was impossible. He did not just want to create movies. He wanted to create a place where families could step into the story. This was like groundbreaking. Now it seems normal to us, but back then it was completely new, a new idea. He wanted to create an immersive experience, a park where everything from the grounds to the music to the staff to the people to where all of it felt completely intentional. And like I said, people thought he was crazy. Inventors did not understand it. Even those that really loved and cared about him questioned him and questioned it you know, but he kept going. And when Disneyland finally opened, it was not perfect. There were problems, there were operational issues, things broke, but the vision was undeniable. And here's the part that matters for our listeners is Walt Disney didn't build Disney to sell tickets. He built it to create magic moments that people would never forget.
Yes.
In fact, I read that he's so focused on that magic moment, whether it's an interaction with the character or an experience on a ride, so that when you look back at your Disney experience, you're not thinking about the 2 hours you spent waiting in the heat or the rain to get on that ride or to have that experience. You're only thinking about those magic moments and those pictures and those character autographs and all of those cool things. So, have you ever been to Disney with your family?
Yeah, a few times. I still I still remember when I brought the kids when we have 4 kids, and when they were a little younger, and I remember when we went through every park. I had saved up forever. It was the craziest trip ever. Our van broke down on the way, transmission dropped out, just crazy things happen. But it was just such an amazing experience. Like you said, you don't remember all the bad things, the waiting in line and things like that, and the kids being in a bad mood or whatever. You just remember those moments. Those and
Yeah,
you think about those moments too, about what are the moments that stick in your head that
yeah.
carry on because those memories are lifetime memories now. We talk
That's
about this.
exactly right. That's exactly right, and I went with my son and his band. He's in high school now, and he was telling me that he remembered I'll give you a
Uh,
specific example. We're a Star Wars family, like, Grayson's room is all decorated Star Wars, and my husband said, "You have to watch all the Star Wars movies before I can date you." Like, I we're a Star Wars family, so we spend a lot of
yes,
time, like, with
Marlon.
right? So we were there the weekend that they opened the Star Wars attraction. Like we were just a big Star Wars family. So Grayson was very little, maybe 4 or 5. He was following the stormtroopers around. There's these two stormtroopers, with their guns and their get-ups and all that, and they're walking around and they're patrolling. And Grayson, being so little, was just enchanted by them. He's following them around, but he didn't want to be seen by them. So whenever they would turn, he would turn too to try to stay behind their backs. But there's two of them so that they figured it out and they saw this cute little kid and they said, "You're arrested. We're taking you to see Kylo Ren." And before you know it, they're walking Grayson across the Star Wars park through these like behind the scenes alleys. They took us behind one of the attractions and he got
Oh,
photos with the stormtroopers. And
wow.
then he walked into, where Kylo Ren was taking pictures with everyone, and he walked to the front of the line with these 2 stormtroopers, and they had
Yes.
him go right in to see Kylo right away, and he was wearing a Kylo Ren shirt, and
Wow.
so Kylo Ren was, like, talking with him and interacting with him, and we took pictures of that, and, of course, I blew them up into poster size, and they're in his room and all that. And I did not know if he would remember that, but we got back to the Star Wars attraction and he was like, I remember when I was captured by the stormtroopers. I remember when I met Kylo Ren." And I think it's because Disney does such a good job making sure that it's not just a theme park, it's not just a ride, it's not just an attraction, it's not just an amusement park, but you're inside of a story. You're
Yes.
in the Star Wars experience and you're interacting with the Star Wars characters. And I'll tell you that we got to meet several characters while we were there. And it was really funny how they stay in character. Here's what I noticed, like Goofy would high five me. Mickey Mouse would not high five me. He took my hand like a gentleman would, and he extended his elbow so I could put my hand in his elbow like a gentleman would. Like they have their very specific personalities and they don't break those characters to make
Yeah.
sure that we feel authentic in that experience. It was really magical.
They embody there's a couple things I wanted to mention. One is the magical moments. It's actually a purposeful thing that they do. And second, you talk
That's right.
about the characters. They don't break characters because they embody the character. They don't cross characters. I knew someone that lived here in Columbus, Ohio, who was Mickey Mouse. He lived in Columbus, Ohio, but he was Mickey Mouse in Disney World. And so I don't know what his hours were, or if he worked a month on or off, but it was such, and he lived in a pretty decent house too. They did pretty well for themselves, but you have to work your way up to be that character. You can't be just someone they hired. You have to, it requires a lot to get to that role. And you become you become Mickey Mouse. You get in that costume, you are Mickey Mouse, and you know
That's right.
everything about Mickey Mouse and how he treats people differently than the other characters do. I love that. And
Yeah.
then the other,
And
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and Mickey Mouse does not high five.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the nature of their personality. It's so cool. And then the magical moments I wanted to mention quickly because we're going to actually talk about creating moments. How as a business, how do you create those special moments? Just to give you a few examples, because this always inspires people. One is the Disney characters, when they hug someone, they are instructed not to let go of the hug until the other person does first. And the reason is, and this is awesome, this will make you tear up. It's because they know that people just need to feel safe a little longer. That is why. That's that moment. They keep that moment. And also they have mouse keepers, not housekeepers, but mouse keepers, right? And when they go clean a room, this is so cool. Like Toy Story, what they'll do is if they find some of their toys or stuffed animals, they'll create a scene like they were interacting with one another in a different
I
part of
love
the
that.
house, different from where they left them, so that when they come back to their hotel room, they're like, toys were playing with each other and interacting. And
Right.
now
Like
they
Toy
don't want me to
Story.
know. Yeah. Yeah. So they create those moments, I love those type of things. Those special birthdays. You wear pins because it helps them identify that, oh, it's your birthday. It's your anniversary. It's a special day for you so that they can acknowledge those special things in your life. It's all about you when you the guest and making your experience immersive and remarkable. That term we're going
That's
to refer
exactly
to,
right.
as people will remark about what you've done
That's
for them.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And they're called cast members. They're not called
Yes.
employees. And all of them are cast members, whether they're sweeping up trash from the park or being Mickey Mouse and everything in between. They are a cast member creating an experience for people. So let's dive into. I thought we should talk about a really amazing book that I read years ago called The Power of Moments. It was Chip and Dan Heath, their brothers. They wrote the book and they talk about how we can intentionally create magic moments that rise above the routine in our businesses so that we can attract and retain clients and grow our business. So let's pivot this now and talk about what it takes to create a magic moment. The first thing that Chip and Dan talk about is this idea of elevation. How do you take a moment and rise it above the ordinary? So in the world of Disney, we see this in the fireworks. We see this in the character interactions. We see this in the first ride moments, and they're wearing their first trip to Disney pins. I have a very specific memory at the end of the fireworks at the Magic Kingdom. Tinkerbell jumps off the top of Cinderella's castle and flies on a zip line across the park.
Oh
And
my
they've got
gosh.
these big lights on her and she's, doing her magic stuff. Like those are moments that everyone's got their phone out, they're videotaping, they're photographing. It was just amazing. So I guess the question is, where are we in our businesses tolerating this idea of just fine? And
Mm.
how could we pivot to make that experience unforgettable? Do you have an example maybe, Trent, of that?
Well, one thing that just came to the top of my mind is, some listeners may be thinking, well, I'm not imaginative like that. Okay. Or I've got imagination, but I don't know how to make it happen. What I wanted to bring up is Disney. I know a little bit about Walt Disney and Roy Disney. Roy Disney is his brother. The reason why their second company did not go under is because of Roy. Okay. Just like Moses and his brother, Moses was he had a stutter and he couldn't speak. So here's the guy speaking to a million Israelites and he's like, I can't even hold a conversation. So he has his brother Aaron speak for him. And it wasn't that Moses couldn't do it all. We're not supposed to do it all. We're supposed to do it in family, right? As a team. So if you're feeling like I can't do this, or this isn't something that it's in my nature to be creating moments like this, maybe there's someone else that you have to align yourself with. That's like you and I, Laura, we teamed up with this podcast because, yeah, we could do podcasts by ourselves alone, but together we were doing it better. And we wanted to create the special moments for people. And we knew we could do it better together to do that. So I want to encourage everybody listening that as we talk about these ideas and these concepts, that we understand that maybe there's another person you align with that is different than yourself. Roy Disney was the operations director. He knew how to keep the budget. Walt Disney was terrible with money. He was terrible. That's why he went bankrupt. He had all these ideas and he spent money like crazy. And he was a terrible smoker too. That's why he died early in 1966 when I was born. And he died of lung cancer. He was smoking like a sieve all the time. So he wasn't good with his health. He wasn't good with his money, but boy, was he imaginative. And then Roy took it to the next step. And Walt never got to see Disney World. He started it, bought the swampland to build on it, which everybody thought he was crazy, but he saw the vision, but Roy made it happen. Just an
Yeah.
encouragement for you.
Yeah, that's a really good, insight is that you don't have to do this yourself, right? You just, as the business owner, you just have to spark the conversation. Like, where in our business can we elevate? So we're talking about elevation, moments that rise above the extraordinary or the ordinary to be extraordinary. Where can we elevate something in our business? An example could be something really simple like a handwritten note
Yeah.
or a surprise upgrade, something that people didn't expect. Like the example of the fireworks at the end of the night when Tinkerbell came down. Did not know that was going to happen. I did not expect that, and that had everybody cheering with delight. So this doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something simple. But the idea is you just want to find a moment that other people are allowing to be ordinary and do something to make it extraordinary. So the first idea,
Yeah.
if you're taking notes, is elevation. The second one is insight. So that is a moment that changes how people see something. You might also think of this as an aha moment or a shift in perspective so that people think, well, I didn't see it that way before. I didn't think of it that way before. It's a realization, a new realization that a client has because of you. Maybe it's an educational moment. That's one of the reasons that we do this podcast is to provide insights so that people will maybe see things a little differently, right?
Yeah. Well, the most effective thing to do when you bring on a new client, for example, I think everybody seems to be very, very focused on the sale, making the sale. And they often forget the moment, the exciting moment that someone comes on as a client. They're excited, but they're afraid. So you have to guide them and you have to help them. Some people call it a concierge program to guide people through a process or an onboarding process. So you have to guide them one step at a time through understanding what it is that they're going through and to calm them and to help them understand the potential that is before them and surprise them with those moments. Like you said, a handwritten note that nowadays, in the past, that was expected, but nowadays people expect to get a text, right? But if they get a handwritten note, it's a surprise because not
That's
many
right.
people are receiving printed cards with handwritten notes in it. And we do that for our clients. And it's handwritten. Michelle writes it because she's got better handwriting than me, but it's important to guide people that way.
Well, and I'll tell you that when I first was exposed to this book, The Power of Moments, it made me realize that I wanted to bring Be Local to Georgetown because I started to really think I was already doing it in Cedar Park, but it made me realize that, wow, this moment that people move into a new town is an opportunity for us to help them have a good experience or an ordinary experience. And I think Be Local is one of those things that says, we're going to mark the moment when someone moves into a new town and we're going to do something unforgettable
Yeah.
that elevates that moment and makes it more magical by helping them feel connected and helping them feel informed and helping them feel like someone cares.
Yeah.
Someone noticed, like someone's showing up to help. So that's an example of how I've used this idea of magic moments in my business is I created something that helps people feel special and feel noticed and feel important in a moment that can be very exciting but also very overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think what's most important is for us to get in the mindset of our client, or like what you were just mentioning, a new homeowner. If a business is trying to reach a new homeowner, for example, they need to get in the mindset of a new homeowner. What does that new person feel like? It's almost like going to and starting high school. I don't know if anybody remembers, or maybe they've forgotten the moment that they entered high school the first year as a freshman or a sophomore. It's the most intimidating thing in the world. You're in an environment with people that you want them to respect you. You desire to be accepted. You want to fit in, and you feel totally insecure. I don't care how much of a jock the person is, they feel insecure too. Or popular, I should say, not a jock. They could be popular and not be a jock, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So the most important thing is us getting in the mindset, understanding, okay, what are they feeling right now? What's the steps they go through to try to feel like they fit in, or to learn about things, or to find things to, someone moving into an area, they want to know what the local resources is, and especially the local businesses, because they're going to purchase more things the first 6 months after they move in than they've ever done. No one wants to spend that much money, but they end up having to. And so those moments are so important, but we have to understand the mindset that they're going through. If we don't, we're often in our own mindset as the business owner. We're thinking of our business. Why don't they understand what we do? Well, we have to understand them first.
Yeah, one thing that I've shared with my staff to help them make more magical moments for our clients is this idea. I learned it from Donald Miller, this idea that our clients are on one side of the river
Mm,
and we're on the other side of the river.
yep.
And we might think the river is just calmly flowing, but that prospective client that's interested in doing business with us might see that river as kind of moving fast and raging.
Rapids.
And
Yeah.
they're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to cross this river. This feels scary. This feels dangerous. It's not worth the risk. And we're wondering as business owners, why aren't you doing business with me? It's so easy. So we as business owners, and this is an insight aha moment example from the book, The Power of Moments for me, is that we extend our hand and we say, doing business with us is as easy as 1, 2, and 3. Here are the 3 simple steps that you take to do business with us. When you do that, it's like laying 3 big rocks in that river that they very easily can step on to have their footing to move across that river to work with you. So everyone listening should be thinking about my clients on the other side of that river. I'm on this side of the river. What can I do to extend my hand and say doing business with me is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Give them 3 very simple steps. For me in my marketing consulting business, I would say the first step is to book a free consult with me. The second step is to tell me what's going on in your business. What's your biggest marketing problem? What's your biggest marketing challenge so I can help you? And the third step is for me to give you low hanging fruit, things that you can do quickly, easily, without a lot of money to start to get traction in your marketing so that we can get you moving in the right direction. So if I have the ability to extend my hand and show them those three things, they're going to be far more at ease about doing business with me, right?
Yeah, I love that. Such a simple, well, that's the one thing you're great at is simplifying these concepts. It's one, two, three. It's just three steps.
That's right.
If people feel like, oh, that's all it takes to get to where I need to go. Okay, great. Guide me. I'm there
That's right.
with you.
That's right. And this is we're talking about the second takeaway from the power of moments called insight. If you can just always be thinking, what happens next? Because my client doesn't know, my prospective client doesn't know what happens next, but I do. So if I can always be leading them by saying, okay, here's where we are and here's what happens next. And I've taught this to my staff and it's really helped them in our business development effort because when they're feeling like a lull in the conversation and they're kind of waiting for, I don't know what to do, as I say, just think about where you are and what happens next and just use the words, here's what happens next. And just tell them, here's what happens next. Let's decide the geography. What part of town do you want to do business in? Here's what happens next. Let's decide the term of the agreement. Here's what happens next. Let's decide the size of the ad. Here's what happens next. We'll design your ad for you. Just keep saying, here's what happens next. Because when you're doing that, you're guiding them, you're leading them, you're making them feel comfortable. You're showing them that you are the expert and you're there to help them succeed. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. So the third takeaway from the power of moments is this idea of pride, helping people feel proud of themselves. So if we can create moments that make people feel acknowledged, recognized, and proud. Like at Disney, we see them celebrating kids. The characters, they really focus on those little ones when they're interacting. They definitely focus on the kids. And we see those kids wearing my first birthday or my first trip. Maybe it's the first time that they got to fight Kylo Ren with their lightsaber, whatever it might be. But we have moments in our business too where we can celebrate our clients. I mean, maybe you own a dance studio or a Pilates studio, and you want to acknowledge people for their 100th visit, their 100th workout, or their 250th workout, or their 500th workout. Like we all have milestones in our business that we can honor and recognize to help our clients feel special.
And I think in regard to that too, we have to understand that it's not us acknowledging them compared to someone else. It's us acknowledging them, recognizing them on if they've improved in something, it's compared to what they used to be.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
So we have to be important. It's very important for us to know that they don't want recognized necessarily for their accomplishments above another person, because what happens later is they start having pressures of performance and things like that. And that's not what motivates people. What motivates people is being celebrated in who they are. That's why our podcast is called The Unbridled Creative, because it's all about being unbridled from what the world thinks we should be, right? And being the creative person that God has created us to be. So it's that's where the acknowledgement and then being seen and honoring as a new client, for example. When I bring on a new client, it's when that client has recognized what our company believes in and what's very important in the direction that we're headed, and they align with that. So what I do is reaffirm them and how they're thinking clearly about where they're headed with their business, because that's part of our discussion is where are you headed? Where's the target? I was reading in a book just today. If you don't have a target, there was a guy in the Olympics that he was this book is called Unburdened, and he was going to win gold. And where they ski and then they shoot targets and things like that. It's like this marathon Ironman type of thing. And they have to shoot targets in between too. It's kind of a weird sport, but it's very popular overseas. And so he was going to win gold. All he had to do was just hit the target, not even in the middle. So he went up for a shot. He shot, and no one saw a bullet hit it. And he checked with the judge, and he says, "But I hit the target. I know I did." And he said, you hit the wrong target. He didn't win a medal at all. He hit someone else's target beside him.
Oh, no.
Yes, I know. He lined up with the wrong target because if we have the wrong target in mind, like target client, who we are, being very clear about who we are and what we believe, and then who we want to partner with. If you're if you don't have the right target client, then you're going to end up where you never imagined you'd be. So I just say that only to say we have to be clear about who we are, and it may have the word pride in it, but I think it's more so us recognizing other people for and celebrating them, especially if they're clients of yours. It's an honor to have a client and someone picked me, and I'm going to serve them with everything.
Right. Well, boy, that shooting at the wrong target, I feel like we could do a whole podcast
Oh my
just on that
gosh.
topic,
Yeah.
so maybe we will.
Yes.
For this moment, in the third takeaway from the power of moments, we'll just invite you to look at where your clients are at in their journey and find ways that you can help them celebrate their progress, right? It's not about perfection. It's about progress and making them feel like you've noticed that they're growing, they're achieving, right? And the fourth and last takeaway from the Power of Moments book is connection. Moments of deep human connection. This is Disney's secret sauce.
Mhm.
This is why we spend, I don't know, I heard from a friend yesterday that the average cost for a family of four to go to Disney for a week is up to like $15,000. I don't know if that's a true stat or not, but
That's if you
why?
buy all the toys while you're there.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, why do we keep going back, spending all of this time, spending all of this money? It's because we have deep, meaningful human connections with our family that we're traveling with and we're making these magic moments with. You know, we're breaking out of our routine, we're connecting with these characters. How do people feel known when they interact with us? So I guess that's the question for us as business owners is how do our clients feel known when they interact with us? What can we do to help create a deeper human connection with our clients in our business?
Yeah, and we could go so many directions with that, but I think the main thing that you're referring to is building trust. Trust takes time. And we have to understand that people are not going to give us trust immediately. That's something that's earned. So we have to understand that there's stages of earning trust from someone. You've said it before on another podcast where people aren't going to get married to you the first time they meet. Would you marry
That's
me?
right.
It'd
That's
freak
right.
them out. It's like,
That's
wait,
right.
you're expecting too much of me. If I'm a client, I don't want whoever I've hired to expect too much of me yet because I haven't gained their trust yet. So it takes time. And then usually people will test as a customer. I will test a business out. I will test to see how they do things. How did they treat me? Did they treat me with respect? Did they guide me through the process? Did they create special moments? That's what Disney does so well is magical moments, it's called. And they create those purposeful moments that are remarkable. What are those moments that the business I've hired has created for me? Not that it has to be this Disney type of thing, right? But what makes it special for me? What's that added extra thing? Is it a remodeler who just remodeled my kitchen? And after they're done, when they give me the walkthrough, they've cleaned it up. They had a professional cleaner come in to clean all the dust in the whole entire house because it affects the whole house. And then there's flowers on the table and there's special treats for your family that night because they just redid your kitchen and you spent a ton of money. And is it half finished or all finished? We had something done in our house that was the walls weren't painted by the company, but they did the other work. It felt unfinished and we actually painted the walls and we were exhausted. We didn't feel a special moment after the project was completed because it wasn't completed.
Mm,
Now, did we have to pay more money to have a painter do it? Yeah. But if we understood that it wasn't going to be a special moment, that company just didn't paint walls. They did the rest of it, which was really, really bad from an experience standpoint. I would I would rather not hire somebody to do that.
right. I think that's a great example of like, let's just make this really simple. This doesn't have to be Tinkerbell jumping off of a castle on a zip line. This can be really simple. So I'm going to give our listeners 3 questions that they should ask about their own business. One is, where is my customer just going through the motions? Let me repeat that. Where is my customer just going through the motions? Maybe sit down and ask your team. Like you said, get in your customer's shoes, look at your business through their eyes. Where is my customer just going through the motions so that I can find those moments where I can make them elevated and magical? The second question is, where can I surprise them? Where can I surprise them? But again, we're looking operationally in your business. Where is a moment where you could do something that surprises them? And then the third question is, where can I make them feel seen? Where can I make them feel seen? I'm going to apply this to Be Local just because that's one of the businesses that I run. Where's my customer just going through the motions? When you're moving, you are in like autopilot. You're like, where's the bank? Where's the post office? Where's the grocery store? Let me get these boxes unpacked. You're in complete and total overwhelm. So what a great opportunity to step in and help them have an easier go of it, right? The second question, where can I surprise them? Well, maybe they've just finished putting their boxes away. They've hung up their blinds. They're starting to hang pictures and they're starting to think, where am I going to put my kid after school? Or where am I going to go on the weekend? Where can I find some good pizza or great yoga class? Like that's an opportunity to kind of surprise them and say, hey, I've got a resource to make all of that easier for you. And the last one is, where can I make them feel seen? When someone moves into a new community, there's that, like you said, the first day of high school moment where you're like super awkward and you feel like the new kid on the block and you're almost afraid to ask questions. When we show up as Be Local with this new mover guide, we're making them feel seen. We're saying, we've noticed you're here. We know that you're new to the community. We wanted to welcome you. We wanted to like give you the word of mouth of this community packaged up, in this guide with a bow on it, basically. So that's an example of how I've used those 3 questions in my business. So we invite you as listeners to do the same for
Here's
your business.
here's a big question. Is it a bow with white spots and it's red?
Oh, right.
For those just listening, it's her bow on top of her head right now
Right.
with ears.
That's exactly right.
And one last thought is, we always often refer to some biblical principles. And I think the biblical principle that applies to this is treat people how you want to be treated. That's the golden rule. Jesus said it, and it's actually every religion has that in their scripture. Every religion, because if we're thinking about the other person, about how we are to serve and to treat them, then we'll win every time. Not that that's the goal. I'm going to serve people because I'm going to get something from it. No, that's not what the goal is. I'm going to serve that person. I'm going to serve those clients, no matter if they stay a client of mine or not. I'm going to serve them just the same. And I've had people come back to work with us after they were gone for a little while because they missed the experience. And that's what I want. And I never want to burn a bridge. And it's interesting that saying called burn a bridge, it's interesting it's that saying because you talked earlier about the 3 stepping stones. You can even take that analogy further when it comes to building a bridge from an engineering perspective. You have one side of the river and the other side of the river. Well, what happens is each side has to start building on each side at the same time, and they meet in the middle and they have to communicate. Otherwise, it's not gonna match up.
It won't match. They won't.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
yeah.
no middle.
So if each side doesn't have an understanding of what's going on each side, and also if anybody's ever seen the St. Louis Arch, that huge structure in St.
Sure.
Louis,
Yeah.
well, they designed it. They built both sides at the same time, and then they met up in the middle, and it had to be exact. And boy, talk about an engineering feat before computers, and it matched because they were communicating, and they had 2 separate crews working on each side.
Mm-hmm.
So we take that analogy further. Never burn a bridge, but make
Right.
sure you build it right.
Right. Well, let's leave our audience with like one simple takeaway from today is that I really want people to understand we're not saying you have to overhaul your whole business. We're just saying we want you to think about where things are ordinary and how you can make them extraordinary. So, one takeaway that you could do this week is to just pick one moment in your process. One moment. Make it more thoughtful, make it more human. It could be something really simple like a handwritten note, a thoughtful follow-up, maybe a phone call instead of an email, something that you can do to make the experience warm and more human, especially in our digital AI age. The more that you can show up as a human, the more you can have in real life interactions, the more that you will take ordinary and make it extraordinary. So,
Yep.
um, we
And ask yourself, is it remarkable? Will
that's
people
right.
remark about it
That's
after
right.
the experience?
Well, and let's all remember too that Walt Disney did not wait for someone to validate his vision. And he actually took a lot of massive action against criticism and against disbelief. He probably could have said, wow, I guess I am crazy. I guess this is stupid and I'm not going to try. But he stayed true to his vision and he kept taking massive action toward it. And he created something because he believed in it, even when it didn't make sense to other people. And look at it now. It's something that, touches millions of families around the world. And maybe that's the invitation for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great
Well, what do we say? Be bold, break free.
and live unbridled.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you. God bless.
Thank you for joining us for Be Locally Loved. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who cares about building thriving communities as much as we do. Until next time, love where you live.